Commander Maya Rodriguez stared through the viewport of the research vessel Horizon, studying the approaching crystalline ships with a mix of wonder and apprehension. The alien vessels resembled massive geometric snowflakes, their translucent hulls refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. After 15 years of deep space exploration, humanity had finally made first contact with an advanced civilization. The Nexari. Preliminary scans complete, Commander. Lieutenant Chen reported from his station. Their ships appear to be composed of some kind of living crystal matrix. It's unlike anything in our database. Maya nodded, unconsciously adjusting the collar of her navy blue uniform. Any signs of weapons? Nothing we can identify as conventional weaponry, Chen replied. Though with their level of technology, anything could be a weapon. The Horizon had been mapping an unexplored sector when they detected the Nexari fleet. Initial communications revealed the species as alien in thought as they were in form, crystalline beings that processed information through complex geometric patterns within their very bodies. Their attempts at diplomacy had been interesting. They're requesting permission to send a delegation aboard, Communications Officer Patil announced. They seem particularly interested in our biological makeup. Grant permission, Maya ordered, but maintain standard quarantine protocols. We don't know how their crystalline structure might interact with organic matter. The Nexari delegation materialized in the Horizon's conference room. 3 towering figures that looked like abstract sculptures carved from living diamond. Their bodies pulsed with internal light patterns that the translation matrix interpreted as both language and thought. We Greek you, carbon-based entities, the tallest Nexari transmitted, its body flickering with complex fractals. We are fascinated by your structural integrity. Maya had learned to recognize confusion in their light patterns. Our structural integrity. Your form appears highly unstable, another Nexari observed. Multiple independent systems, minimal redundancy, constant need for energy input. Yet you persist. How? That's just how organic life evolved on Earth, Maya explained. We're actually quite resilient. The ship suddenly lurched violently. Warning klaxons blared as emergency lights bathed the conference room in red. Hull breach in engineering. Chen's voice cracked over the comm. Some kind of quantum resonance from their ships is interfering with our structural integrity field. Maya barely maintained her footing as the deck pitched beneath her. The Nexari delegate's crystalline forms vibrated in obvious distress, emitting frequencies that made her teeth ache. Evacuate engineering, she ordered, already running for the door. Get everyone. The second impact hit before she could finish. Maya felt the deck give way beneath her feet as emergency force fields snapped into place. She had a moment to register that she was falling, then darkness claimed her. She awoke in medical bay with a splitting headache and Dr. Santos' concerned face hovering over her. Easy, Commander, the doctor cautioned as Maya tried to sit up. You took quite a hit. Broken ribs, concussion, internal bleeding. Though we've managed to stabilize the worst of it. The ship, Maya asked through gritted teeth. Engineering's a mess, but Chen got the structural integrity field back online. The Nexari fleet has withdrawn to a safe distance. They seem rather disturbed. Maya finally noticed the Nexari delegate standing in the corner of medical bay, its crystalline form emanating patterns that the translator rendered as extreme agitation. You continue to function, the alien observed, despite catastrophic structural damage. Well, yes, Maya replied, wincing as she shifted position. Humans are pretty tough. We heal. The Nexari's light patterns became almost strobing. You repair autonomously, without external reconstruction. Of course, all organic life does. Cells regenerate, bones knit, tissue repairs itself. It takes time, but the alien transmitted a burst of patterns so complex the translator glitched trying to process them. Impossible. The energy requirements alone. And you say this is normal. Standard human biology, Dr. Santos confirmed, checking Maya's vitals. Though the commander here has always been a particularly quick healer, she'll likely be back on her feet in a few weeks. The Nexari delegate's form actually cracked slightly, a sound like breaking glass accompanying its transmission. Weeks to reconstruct major structural damage, and you will return to full functionality. That's the plan, Maya replied, managing a slight smile despite the pain. Though I wouldn't mind some more painkillers in the meantime. The alien's next transmission was tagged as a priority alert to the Nexari fleet. Critical UPDAE. Human biological units possess unprecedented regenerative capabilities. Structural damage is temporary. They cannot be permanently disabled through conventional means. Strategic reassessment required immediately. Maya exchanged a look with Dr. Santos as the Nexari delegate practically fled medical bay, its crystalline form still broadcasting panic on all frequencies. I think, she said slowly, we may have just accidentally terrified an advanced alien species by being too hard to break. The doctor nodded, administering another dose of painkillers. And somehow, Commander, I suspect this is only the beginning of the misunderstandings. She had no idea how right she was. The Nexari observation team converted half of Medical Bay into what they called a biological reconstruction analysis station, much to Dr. Santos' barely concealed amusement. Their crystalline forms flickered with constant data transmission as they monitored Commander Rodriguez's recovery with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Fascinating, the lead researcher, designated Crystal Prime, noted as Santos changed Maya's bandages. The damaged tissue shows accelerated cellular division without loss of structural integrity. How do you prevent cascading replication errors? That's just how our immune system works, Maya explained, trying not to laugh at the alien's probing patterns of disbelief. The body knows when to stop healing. Impossible, another researcher designated Crystal Beta transmitted. No natural system can maintain such precise control over molecular reconstruction. Its crystalline surface developed stress fractures from processing this information. The Nexari fleet maintained their safe distance position, though their ships continuously scanned the horizon with increasing frequency. Each medical report on Maya's condition triggered new waves of agitation through their ranks. Lieutenant Chen, reviewing the intercepted transmissions, couldn't contain his grin. Commander, they think we're some kind of self-repairing organic superweapon. Their tactical assessments are getting increasingly paranoid. Has anyone tried explaining basic human biology to them? Maya asked, carefully sitting up in her bed. Oh, we tried, Dr. Santos replied, checking Maya's ribs. But when I mentioned stem cells, 3 of their scientists had to be evacuated for emergency recalibration. Apparently, the concept of undifferentiated cells that can become any tissue type was too much for their crystalline matrices to process. The situation escalated when Maya started physical therapy. The sight of her deliberately stressing healing tissue to regain strength caused a minor riot among the Nexari observers. They intentionally damage recovering structures. Crystal Prime's transmission was so intense it temporarily disrupted the medical bay's monitoring equipment. The humans use controlled destruction to enhance regeneration. It's just physical therapy, Maya tried to explain while doing her prescribed exercises. We have to rebuild muscle strength gradually. They can upgrade their biological components through deliberate stress application. Crystal Beta interrupted, its form vibrating with academic panic. The implications are tactically concerning. The Nexari High Command's response to these reports was swift and dramatic. Their fleet doubled in size overnight, though they maintained what they calculated as minimum safe distance from the human regeneration radius. Maya watched the growing fleet through her viewport with increasing concern. I think we may have accidentally started an arms race by being too hard to kill. It gets better, Chen reported, bringing her the latest intelligence. They've designated us as Class X biological entities, their highest threat classification. Apparently, they think we're some kind of organic von Neumann machine, capable of unlimited self-repair and enhancement. The situation reached a new level of absurdity when Maya joked about dying for some real coffee after weeks of medical bay nutrients. When Santos smuggled her an espresso the next day, and she showed immediate improvement in alertness and mood, the Nexeri observation team nearly suffered collective systems failure. They can temporarily deactivate and reactivate with enhanced capabilities through ritual consumption of bitter stimulants. Crystal Prime's emergency report stated, "Their control over their biological functions exceeds known theoretical limits." Admiral Nexus, commander of the gathered Nexeri fleet, reviewed these reports with growing alarm. Their initial scans had classified humans as primitive carbon-based life forms. Now, faced with evidence of their unprecedented biological capabilities, the Admiral's crystalline form developed stress patterns visible from orbit. "They cannot be conventionally disabled," the Admiral transmitted to the High Command. "Structural damage appears to trigger enhancement protocols. Their regenerative capabilities may be infinite. Traditional tactical analysis is insufficient." Meanwhile, the human crew of the Horizon found themselves walking on eggshells, literally, as the Nexeri observers would panic at any sign of physical stress or exertion. Even routine maintenance became an ordeal as the aliens interpreted every minor cut or bruise as evidence of humans' voluntary structural modification capabilities. "I scraped my knee replacing a power coupling," Engineer Paddle reported to Maya. 3 Nexeri scientists recorded it as deliberate dermal renovation for enhanced performance. "I think they believe we're upgrading ourselves." Maya, now able to walk short distances, couldn't help but see the dark humor in the situation. Their accidental demonstration of human resilience had transformed a simple first contact into a potential military crisis. The Nexeri, with their rigid crystalline forms and perfect but inflexible structures, simply couldn't comprehend biological adaptability. Perhaps, she mused to Dr. Santos, "we should avoid mentioning human pregnancy. I suspect the concept of growing entirely new humans might cause their entire fleet to suffer spontaneous crystalline collapse." The doctor's reply was cut short by urgent alarms. The Nexeri fleet was moving, their crystalline ships forming complex geometric patterns that their tactical officers recognized as battle formations. The misunderstanding was about to become an interstellar incident. The Nexeri fleet's battle formation resembled a massive crystalline snowflake, each ship precisely positioned to form an intricate geometric pattern. From the Horizon's bridge, now able to stand with minimal support, Commander Maya Rodriguez watched the display with growing concern. "They've established a resonance field between their ships," Lieutenant Chen reported, studying his readings. "Energy patterns suggest they're preparing for coordinated action." Admiral Nexus's transmission reached them on all frequencies. "Attention Biological Enhancement Vessel Horizon. Your species represents an unprecedented tactical concern. Submit to containment protocols immediately." Maya exchanged glances with her bridge crew. "Containment protocols. They want to quarantine us in a quantum stasis field." Chen translated, his expression grim. "Apparently, they've classified human regenerative capabilities as a potential galaxy-wide contamination risk." "Fantastic," Maya muttered. "Our ability to heal from a broken rib has convinced them we're a plague of self-repairing superorganisms." She opened a channel to the Nexeri fleet. "Admiral Nexus, this is Commander Rodriguez. There's been a serious misunderstanding. You continue to function despite catastrophic structural damage." The Admiral interrupted, their crystalline form pulsing with command authority. "Your species possesses biological capabilities that defy natural law. You will submit to study and containment." The Horizon's tactical officer, Lieutenant Park, reported sudden energy spikes across the Nexeri fleet. "They're charging weapons, some kind of crystalline resonance technology. Looks designed to disrupt molecular bonds. They're going to try to crystallize us," Chen realized. "Turn us into something they can understand and control." Maya straightened despite the pain in her healing ribs. "Send an emergency broadcast to Earth Command, and get me ship-wide." She took a breath as the channel opened. "All hands, This is the commander. The Nexari have mistaken human biology for some kind of technological threat. They're preparing to attack. Battle stations. The Horizon's crew moved with practiced efficiency, even as more Nexari ships arrived to join the formation. Their research vessel, while well-built, was hardly a match for an alien battle fleet. Multiple resonance patterns detected, Park announced. They're trying to establish a containment grid around us. Emergency protocols authorized. Admiral Nexus transmitted. The biological enhancement engines must be secured before they can upgrade further. Maya almost laughed despite the situation. They think we're going to evolve into something worse if they wait too long. Helm, can we break their formation? Negative. The helmsman reported. They've anticipated every standard escape vector. These patterns aren't random. They're creating some kind of crystalline logic gate around us. The first resonance wave hit the Horizon's shields, making the entire ship vibrate. Maya gripped her command chair, fighting back a wince as her healing ribs protested. Shields holding, Park reported, but they're probing for frequencies that match human biological patterns. They're trying to disable our enhancement engines, which I'm pretty sure they think are our vital organs. Another transmission from Admiral Nexus. Your resistance indicates additional enhancement capabilities. Submit to containment before further biological upgrades are necessary. They think we're getting stronger because we're fighting back, Chen realized. Everything we do just confirms their worst fears about us. Maya watched the crystalline fleet's patterns shift and reform, each movement precise and logical, and utterly inflexible. An idea began to form. They process everything through rigid crystalline matrices, she said slowly. Perfect order, perfect logic, no room for adaptation or uncertainty. She turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Park, what would happen if we introduced a little chaos into their perfect patterns? Park's eyes lit up with understanding. Their whole tactical approach relies on geometric precision. If we could disrupt their formation. Exactly. They're so afraid of our biological unpredictability. Let's show them why. Maya opened a channel to engineering. This is the commander. I need you to modify our shield harmonics. Make them fluctuate randomly, like a biological pattern, and prepare to vent plasma on my mark. The Nexari fleet continued their methodical approach, their patterns growing more complex as they attempted to account for every possible tactical response. But they had evolved in a crystalline world of perfect geometry and predictable patterns. They weren't prepared for the messy, chaotic nature of organic problem-solving. Maya smiled, ignoring the protest from her healing wounds. Sometimes the best way to win wasn't to be stronger or more advanced. Sometimes you just had to be too weird for the enemy's tactical algorithms to process. All hands, she broadcast. Prepare for some very human improvisation. Initiating shield modulation, Lieutenant Park announced as his fingers flew across the tactical console. The Horizon's defensive screens began pulsing in irregular patterns, mimicking the chaos of biological systems. The effect on the Nexari fleet was immediate. Their perfect crystalline formation wavered as their sensors struggled to analyze the unpredictable fluctuations. Their targeting algorithms are failing, Chen reported with barely suppressed glee. They can't establish a lock on our shield harmonics. Maya watched the massive alien fleet's formation deteriorate further as they attempted to compensate for the Horizon's erratic defenses. Time to add some more variables to their equations. Engineering. Vent plasma on my mark. The Nexari transmitted on all frequencies. Alert. Biological enhancement vessel displaying impossible shield configurations. Containment protocols insufficient. They're trying to rewrite their tactical programs in real time, Chen observed. But their crystalline processing can't handle this many unknown variables. Maya nodded, her ribs aching as she leaned forward in her command chair. That's because they're trying to find a perfect solution. But life isn't about perfection, it's about adaptation. She keyed the comm. Engineering, vent plasma. Random bursts, maximum dispersion. Superheated plasma erupted from the horizon's vents in chaotic patterns, further disrupting the Nexari's carefully calculated containment grid. Their crystalline ships began moving in increasingly erratic patterns as their tactical systems struggled to process the mounting chaos. Remarkable. Crystal Prime transmitted from the observation post in Medical Bay. They intentionally introduce entropy into their defensive systems. The tactical implications are impossible to quantify. Admiral Nexus's next transmission contained noticeable distortion. The humans have weaponized unpredictability. Standard combat algorithms are failing. Emergency tactical recalibration required. But there was no time for recalibration. The horizon's shields continued their random fluctuations, while plasma bursts created expanding clouds of energized particles. Each attempt by the Nexari to establish a new attack pattern was disrupted by another surge of artificial chaos. Their fleet coordination is breaking down, Park reported. Individual ships are starting to act independently as their shared tactical network fails. Maya allowed herself a tight smile. They're experiencing the downside of perfect unity. When one part of their system fails, the whole thing starts to collapse. She turned to her helm officer. Plot us a course through that gap in their formation. Make it as irregular as possible. The horizon began to move, its path resembling nothing so much as a drunken butterfly. The Nexari fleet's attempts to reestablish their containment grid were repeatedly thwarted by their inability to predict the research vessel's trajectory. Secondary effect detected, Chen announced. The random plasma bursts are creating interference patterns in their crystalline matrices. Their entire command and control structure is destabilizing. Admiral Nexus made one final transmission. Tactical assessment impossible. Human biological enhancement capabilities exceed known parameters. Strategic withdrawal authorized. The massive alien fleet began to retreat, their perfect formations completely abandoned as individual ships sought safety in different directions. Their fear of humanity's supposed biological superiority had been completely overshadowed by their inability to cope with simple chaos. Maya watched them go, finally allowing herself to sink back in her chair with a relieved sigh. Stand down from battle stations. Lieutenant Chen, make sure they're actually leaving. They're gone, Chen confirmed. Though they're broadcasting warnings to all nearby systems about encountering entities capable of weaponizing biological uncertainty, I think we just became an urban legend in their civilization. All because we showed them that not everything needs a perfect solution, Maya mused. Sometimes the best defense is simply being too unpredictable to defeat. Dr. Santos arrived on the bridge, medical scanner in hand. Commander, you've stressed your healing injuries. I need to. Don't say that too loud, Maya interrupted with a wry smile. The last thing we need is for them to detect my enhanced regeneration protocols and come back for another try. The doctor paused, then chuckled. I suppose this explains why they were so obsessed with human healing. To a species built on perfect crystalline structure, our messy biological adaptability must seem like some kind of superpower. Maya nodded, watching the last Nexari ships disappear from their sensors. They were so focused on finding our secret, they couldn't accept that chaos and imperfection might be an advantage. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to be stronger or more advanced. It's to be too weird for the enemy's tactical algorithms to process. 1 month after the Nexari retreat, Commander Maya Rodriguez stood at the horizon's viewport watching a new crystalline ship approach. Unlike the aggressive geometric patterns of their warships, this vessel resembled an elaborate abstract sculpture, its facets arranged in what she now recognized as academic configurations. Single ship, minimal power signatures, Chen reported. They're broadcasting academic credentials. It's a science vessel. The Nexari scientist who materialized in the conference room introduced herself as Crystal Scholar Prime, her crystalline form displaying complex patterns that indicated both curiosity and caution. We seek understanding, she transmitted. Our military's response was incorrect. Maya gestured to a chair specially designed to accommodate crystalline life forms. We've been hoping for a chance to clear up the misunderstandings. Our species evolved seeking perfection, Crystal Scholar explained, her internal lights pulsing in scholarly patterns. Each problem must have an optimal solution, but your victory demonstrated something we had not considered: the power of imperfection. The human crew exchanged glances as Maya shifted in her chair, her newly healed ribs barely twinging. We don't see it as imperfection. Life isn't about finding perfect solutions. It's about adapting to change. Yes, the scientist's patterns brightened with comprehension. Your biological systems appear chaotic, yet achieve remarkable stability through constant adjustment. Even your tactical approach embraced uncertainty as an advantage. We wish to learn. Over the next few hours, human and Nexeri scientists engaged in their first real exchange of information. The crystalline beings were fascinated by the concept of evolutionary adaptation, while the humans gained insight into the elegant mathematical principles underlying crystalline life. Perhaps, Crystal Scholar suggested, her form shimmering with academic excitement, both our species have something to teach each other. Your adaptability, our precision. Combined, they might lead to discoveries neither of us could achieve alone. Maya smiled, remembering how their differences had nearly led to conflict. That's a very human way of thinking, finding strength in diversity rather than perfection. The Nexeri scientists' response carried harmonics of amusement. Indeed, though our military still maintains a safe distance protocol for human space, they've classified your unpredictability as, quote, tactically overwhelming. Well, Maya replied, at least they've stopped trying to quarantine us as self-repairing superweapons. Though I'm still not sure how to explain to Earth Command that we won an interstellar confrontation by being too biologically weird to fight. Crystal Scholar's patterns shifted to indicate what the translator interpreted as laughter. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. True understanding comes not from forcing others into our own patterns of thought, but from learning to appreciate the beauty in our differences. As Maya watched human and Nexeri scientists begin their collaborative work, she reflected on how their greatest perceived weakness, their messy, unpredictable biological nature, had proved to be their greatest strength. Sometimes, she realized, victory didn't come from being the strongest or most advanced. Sometimes it came from simply being yourself, imperfections and all. The Horizon continued its mission of exploration, now accompanied by their Nexeri scientific partners. And if the crystalline beings still occasionally expressed alarm at human healing capabilities, or their habit of deliberately introducing chaos into ordered systems, well, that was just part of the ongoing adventure of first contact. After all, thought Maya as she returned to the bridge, the galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and sometimes the most wonderful thing of all was learning to see yourself through alien eyes, even if those eyes happened to be made of living crystal.